I stood in the bridal suite, the Pacific Ocean roaring below the cliffside estate in Monterey, California, my $10,000 0 cents Vera Wang gown clinging to me like a second skin. The mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized. Emily Harper, 32, corporate lawyer, poised to marry the love of my life, David, under a sky that promised forever. But the thunder outside wasn't the only storm brewing. My phone buzzed on the vanity, a single text from my sister Lauren slicing through the morning's fragile calm. "Don't expect us. You'll regret this." The words hit like a punch to the gut. I stared at the screen, my bouquet of white roses trembling in my hands. Lauren, my parents, Diane and Richard, they weren't just late. They weren't coming. After I'd paid for their first-class flights, their ocean view suites at the Hyatt, their tailored outfits from Nordstrom, they'd chosen Lauren's shady fiancé's charity gala over my wedding. A gala, not a funeral, not a crisis, but a glittering, Instagram-ready event for Victor Kane, a tech mogul with a smile too sharp and eyes too cold. I'd spent months curating every detail of this day to please them, to prove I was enough, and they'd tossed it aside like a crumpled napkin. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the floor-to-ceiling window, the ocean churning gray and wild below. The estate was a masterpiece. Ivory linens, crystal chandeliers, a string quartet tuning up in the ballroom. My firm's senior partners were already sipping champagne downstairs, their presence a silent reminder of the promotion I was chasing. This wedding wasn't just a celebration, it was a high-stakes performance, and I was the star who couldn't afford to crack. But Lauren's text was a crack, a fissure in the perfect facade I'd built. I wanted to scream, to call her and demand answers, but the clock read 2:45 p.m. The ceremony was in 15 minutes. My best friend Marcus knocked softly, his voice muffled through the door. "Em, you okay in there?" I forced a smile, even though he couldn't see it. "Fine, just nerves." He didn't buy it, I could tell from the pause. But he didn't push. Marcus had flown in from Chicago, paid for his own ticket, and arrived without a hint of drama, unlike my family. He was my rock, the one who'd seen me through late-night study sessions at Stanford Law, through the tears when my parents forgot my graduation, through the quiet moments when I admitted I wasn't sure I deserved any of this. I wanted to tell him about the text, but the words stuck in my throat. Saying it out loud would make it real. I checked my phone again. No calls, no apologies, just Lauren's message glowing like a warning sign. I dialed my mom's number, my fingers shaking, straight to voicemail. My dad's phone rang once, then nothing. I pictured them at Victor's gala, my mom in her Chanel dress, laughing with influencers, my dad nursing a scotch, both of them oblivious to the fact that their absence was carving a hole in my chest. I'd moved the wedding from San Francisco to Monterey to make it easier for them, closer to their Carmel-by-the-Sea condo. I'd paid for everything, even Victor's ticket, just so Lauren wouldn't have an excuse. And still, they'd chosen her. The makeup artist, a kind woman named Clara, touched my shoulder. "You're stunning, Emily. Ready for the first look?" I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I wasn't ready. Not for David, not for the guests, not for the truth that my family had never loved me the way I'd loved them. But I'd spent my life pretending, and I could pretend for one more day. I stepped into the hallway, the gown trailing behind me, and caught my reflection in a gilded mirror. For a moment, I saw the girl I used to be. Quiet, bookish, always chasing approval that never came. Then, I straightened my shoulders. I was Emily Harper, the lawyer who'd won impossible cases, who'd built a life from scratch. I could do this. Downstairs, the estate buzzed with life. Waiters glided with trays of crab cakes and Prosecco. My firm's managing partner, Helen Voss, stood by the bar, her sharp eyes scanning the room. She'd hinted at a promotion to equity partner if I pulled off this event flawlessly, a rare opportunity for someone my age. David, my fiancé, was outside with a photographer. his easy laugh carrying through the open doors. He was everything my family wasn't. Steady, kind, the kind of man who'd proposed on a foggy beach with a ring he'd saved 2 years for. I wanted to run to him, to tell him about Lauren's text, but I couldn't. Not yet. Then my phone buzzed again. Not a text, but an email. The subject line was blank, the sender a string of random numbers. I opened it, my stomach twisting. A single line, "You think you're safe today? Watch your back." Attached was a photo of me in my gown, taken minutes ago from outside the suite's window. My breath caught. Someone was here, watching me, close enough to see the roses in my hands. I spun toward the window, but the cliffside was empty, the ocean swallowing any trace of an intruder. I shoved the phone into my clutch, my heart pounding. It had to be a prank, right? Maybe Lauren trying to rattle me. But the photo was too real, the angle too precise. I forced myself to breathe, to focus. I had a wedding to get through, a promotion to secure, a future to build. I couldn't let some anonymous creep, or my family, derail me. Marcus appeared at my side, his tux impeccable, his brown eyes searching mine. "Em, you look like you've seen a ghost. What's going on?" I hesitated, then handed him my phone, showing him the email. His jaw tightened as he read it. "This is messed up. We need to tell security." "No," I said quickly. "It's probably nothing. I can't afford a scene, Marcus, not with Helen watching." He frowned but nodded. "Fine, but I'm sticking close, and you're telling David after the ceremony." I didn't argue. Marcus had always been my protector, the brother my family never gave me. I looped my arm through his, letting his warmth ground me as we headed toward the ceremony space. The cliffside lawn was a vision, white chairs in neat rows, an arch of lilies swaying in the wind, the ocean a dramatic backdrop. Guests were taking their seats, their chatter mingling with the quartet's soft melody. I scanned the crowd for my parents, for Lauren, even though I knew they wouldn't be there. A foolish part of me still hoped. The officiant, a silver-hailed woman with a serene smile, signaled it was time. My heart lurched. This was it, the moment I'd dreamed of since David and I met 3 years ago at a legal conference, bonding over bad coffee and shared dreams. I'd planned every detail of this day to be perfect, not just for us, but for the family I'd always wanted to impress. I'd chosen a menu with my mom's favorite oysters, a playlist with Lauren's pop anthems, even a vintage car for my dad's love of classics. I'd thought if I gave enough, they'd show up, not just physically, but emotionally. I'd been wrong. As the quartet struck up the processional, a low rumble cut through the music. Not thunder, a helicopter, the one I'd chartered to bring my firm's VIP clients from San Francisco. It was early, which was odd. I squinted at the sky, the chopper's blades slicing through the clouds. Then it tilted, a sickening lurch, its tail spinning wildly. Gasps rippled through the guests. My stomach dropped as the helicopter plummeted toward the ocean, pulling up at the last second to crash land on a rocky outcrop below the cliff. Smoke billowed from the wreckage. Chaos erupted. Guests screamed, running toward the cliff's edge. Marcus grabbed my arm, pulling me back. "Stay here, Em. I'll check it out." "No, I'm coming," I said, my voice steady despite the panic clawing at me. I kicked off my heels, the gown dragging as I ran toward the crash site. My mind raced. The chopper had been carrying Helen's top client, a biotech CEO named Martin Gale. If he was hurt, or worse, my career was over before the vows were even spoken. We reached the cliff's edge, the wreckage smoldering below. The pilot was slumped over the controls, but Martin and 2 others were crawling out, dazed but alive. Paramedics were already on their way, sirens wailing in the distance. Helen appeared beside me, her face a mask of fury. "Emily, what the hell happened? You vouched for that charter company." "I don't know," I stammered. "I checked everything. The maintenance records, the pilot's credentials." "Then explain this," she snapped, gesturing at the wreckage. "Fix it, or you're done at the firm. I don't care how good your billable hours are." I nodded, my throat tight. I wanted to tell her about Lauren's text, about the email, about the sinking feeling that this wasn't an accident, but I had no proof, only a lawyer's instinct that something was very, very wrong. Marcus pulled me aside, his voice low. I just talked to the ground crew. They found tampering in the chopper's fuel line. This was deliberate. My blood ran cold. Sabotage. My family's absence, Lauren's text, the threatening email. They weren't coincidences. Someone wanted this day to fail, and they were willing to risk lives to make it happen. I glanced at the guests, their faces a mix of shock and curiosity. My wedding was unraveling, and I was the only one who could stop it. Then my phone buzzed again. Another email, same sender. This time, a video. I opened it, my hands shaking. It was grainy but clear enough. Me, in my suite, adjusting my veil, unaware of the camera. A voice, distorted and chilling, whispered, "You can't hide, Emily. Not today." I dropped the phone, the roses slipping from my hands. The ocean roared below, the wind tearing at my gown. My wedding wasn't just a disaster. It was a trap, and I was the target. The Monterey estate was a war zone of whispers and flashing lights. Paramedics swarmed the cliffside where the helicopter had crashed, their radios crackling over the wail of sirens. Guests huddled in clusters, their champagne flutes forgotten, their faces lit by the red and blue glow of emergency vehicles. My Vera Wang gown dragged through the grass, mud caking the hem, as I stood frozen, the stalker's video replaying in my mind, "You can't hide, Emily. Not today." The distorted voice was a blade, sharp and personal, and the image of me in my bridal suite, oblivious to the camera, burned behind my eyes. Someone had been close. Too close. And they were still here, watching. Marcus was at my side, his hand steady on my elbow, but his eyes darted across the crowd, scanning for threats. We need to get you inside," he said, his voice low, urgent. "This isn't just a prank anymore." I nodded, but my feet wouldn't move. My phone was still in the grass where I'd dropped it, the screen glowing with that cursed email. I wanted to smash it, to erase the evidence of my vulnerability, but I was a lawyer, trained to preserve evidence, to think 3 steps ahead. I bent down, snatching it up, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it again. The roses I'd been clutching were scattered, petals crushed underfoot. My wedding was supposed to be a beginning, a celebration of everything I'd fought for. David, my career, a life I'd built despite my family's indifference. Instead, it was a nightmare, and I was the one unraveling. Helen Voss, my firm's managing partner, was barking orders at a security guard, her tailored blazer stark against the chaos. She caught my eye, her expression a mix of disdain and expectation. "Emily, I'm serious," she called over the din. "Fix this, now. Martin Gale is in an ambulance, and if he sues, you're the one answering for it." Her words were a slap, but they snapped me out of my daze. Martin Gale, the biotech CEO, was one of our biggest clients. His injury, broken ribs, maybe a concussion, could tank my promotion to equity partner, the goal I'd bled for over a decade. I forced my voice to steady. "I'm on it, Helen. I'll call the charter company, get the maintenance logs." "Save the excuses," she cut me off. "Results? That's all I care about." She turned away, already dialing someone, probably the firm's PR team, to spin this disaster before it hit the headlines. Marcus tugged me toward the estate's main building, away from the cliff's edge where the wreckage still smoked. Listen to me. That chopper was sabotaged. The ground crew found a cut fuel line, clean as a scalpel. This wasn't an accident, and that email—" He glanced at my phone, his jaw tight. "Someone's targeting you. We need to tell David. David, my fiancé, the man who'd promised to love me through anything, was still with the photographer, oblivious to the chaos. I pictured his warm hazel eyes, his steady hand in mine, and a pang of guilt hit me. I hadn't told him about Lauren's text, about my family's absence, about the stalker's threats. I'd wanted to protect him, to keep this day perfect for us both. But the truth was clawing its way out, and I couldn't shield him, or myself, any longer. "Not yet," I said, my voice brittle. "I need to figure this out first. If I tell David now, he'll want to cancel the ceremony, and I can't let this fall apart, Marcus." He stopped, turning to face me, his eyes searching mine. "Em, you're not alone in this. You don't have to carry it all. But you're in danger, and pretending otherwise won't make it go away." His words hit harder than Helen's. Marcus had always seen through me, through the polished exterior I'd built to survive my family, my career, my own doubts. But admitting I was scared felt like admitting defeat, and I wasn't ready to lose. Not yet. We reached the estate's grand foyer, the chandeliers casting fractured light across marble floors. The string quartet had stopped playing, replaced by the murmur of guests and the occasional sob. I spotted Clara, the makeup artist, hovering near the bar, her eyes wide with worry. "Emily, are you okay?" she asked, rushing over. "I heard about the helicopter. Is everyone—" "They're alive," I said, cutting her off more sharply than I meant to. "I'm sorry, Clara. It's just a lot." She nodded, squeezing my arm. "If you need anything, I'm here. You're the bride, not the crisis manager." Her kindness stung, a reminder of the day I was supposed to be having. I forced a smile, then turned to Marcus. "I need to check the security footage. If someone was in the suite, there's got to be a trace." He hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but I'm coming with you, and we're telling the estate security team about that email." We headed toward the security office, a small room tucked behind the ballroom. My gown felt like a cage, the train catching on every step, but I didn't have time to change. Every second mattered. The security guard, a burly man named Tony with a buzz cut and a no-nonsense stare, was already reviewing footage from the crash site. He looked up as we entered, his brow furrowing at my appearance. "Miss Harper, you shouldn't be here," he said. "We've got this under control." "No, you don't," I said, my lawyer voice kicking in, calm, authoritative, unyielding. "Someone sent me a threatening email with a video of me in the bridal suite, taken less than an hour ago. I need to see the footage from that hallway, now." Tony's eyes widened, but he didn't argue. He pulled up the camera feeds, scrolling through timestamps. The hallway outside the suite was empty for most of the morning, just Clara and a few staff passing through. Then, at 2:37 p.m., a figure appeared, hooded, face obscured, moving with purpose. They slipped a small device under the suite's door, then vanished down a service stairwell. The whole thing took less than 10 seconds. My stomach churned. "That's them. Can you track where they went?" Tony switched to the stairwell camera, but the feed cut to static at the exact moment the figure would have appeared. "Someone looped the footage," he said, his voice grim. "This was planned." Marcus swore under his breath. "Em, this is way bigger than a grudge. We need to call the police." "Not yet," I said, my mind racing. The police would mean interviews, delays, a media circus, everything Helen had warned me to avoid. But more than that, I needed answers. Lauren's text, the sabotage, the stalker, they were connected, and I couldn't shake the feeling that my family was at the center of it. I turned to Tony. "Lock down the estate. No one leaves until we figure out who this is." He nodded, reaching for his radio, but before he could speak, a scream echoed from the ballroom. My heart lurched. I ran toward the sound, Marcus and Tony on my heels, my gown tangling around my legs. The ballroom was a sea of chaos, guests staggering, clutching their throats, champagne flutes shattered on the floor. A woman in a sequin dress collapsed, her face pale, her breathing shallow. Clara was kneeling beside her, shouting for help. "What's happening?" I demanded, pushing through the crowd. "It's the champagne," Clara said, her voice trembling. "People started choking after drinking it. I think it's poisoned." The word hit like a bullet. Poisoned. I scanned the room, my mind cataloging details like I was in a courtroom. The waiters were frozen, trays abandoned. Helen was on her phone, her face ashen. And then I saw it. A tray of untouched flutes near the catering station. The same station my family had access to when they toured the venue last week. They'd insisted on helping with the setup, and I'd been too desperate for their approval to question it. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Em, we need to get you out of here. If this is tied to the stalker—" "No," I said, pulling free. "I'm not running. Not from this." But the truth was, I was terrified. The helicopter crash, the video, now this. Someone wasn't just trying to ruin my wedding. They were trying to destroy me. And they didn't care who got hurt in the process. I thought of Lauren's text, "You'll regret this." Had she known? Had she planned this with Victor, her shady fiancé, whose gala was conveniently pulling my family away? Or was it someone else, someone from my past, a case I'd won, a client I'd crossed? Before I could process it, my phone buzzed again. Another email, same anonymous sender, this time a single line, "Check your bouquet." My breath caught. I'd left the roses in the grass after the crash, but they'd been picked up by a staff member and placed on a table near the ballroom entrance. I pushed through the crowd, ignoring Marcus's protests, and grabbed the bouquet. Tucked between the stems was a folded note, the paper damp from the grass. I unfolded it, my hands trembling. "You took everything from me. Now I take it back." The initial C was a jolt. I knew that letter, that name. Cassandra, a former client I'd represented in a brutal corporate lawsuit 3 years ago. I'd won the case, but she'd lost everything. Her company, her savings, her reputation. She'd sworn revenge, but I'd dismissed it as empty threats. Could she be here, orchestrating this chaos? Or was it a misdirection, someone using her name to throw me off? I shoved the note into my clutch, my mind spinning. The paramedics were stabilizing the poisoned guests, but the damage was done. The wedding was a crime scene, my career was hanging by a thread, and my family's betrayal was only the beginning. I looked at Marcus, his face etched with worry, and made a decision. "Find David," I said. "Tell him everything. I'm going to the catering station. If my family had access, there's got to be evidence." "You're not a detective," he said. But I was already moving, the gown slowing me down but not stopping me. The catering station was in a side room, cordoned off by staff. I slipped past a distracted waiter, my eyes scanning for anything out of place. A bottle of champagne sat on a counter, its seal broken, a faint residue on the rim. I didn't touch it. Fingerprints, evidence. But I snapped a photo with my phone, then I saw it. A key card, half hidden under a napkin, with the estate's logo. It wasn't a guest key card. It was staff only, the kind my family shouldn't have had. I pocketed it, my pulse racing. This was proof, or at least a lead. But before I could dig deeper, the lights flickered, then died, plunging the room into darkness. A collective gasp rose from the ballroom. My heart pounded as I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, the beam cutting through the shadows. Footsteps echoed behind me. Too close, too deliberate. I spun around, but the room was empty, except for a faint creak from the service door. "Emily?" Marcus's voice came from the ballroom, distant, searching. I opened my mouth to call back, but a hand clamped over my lips, cold and rough. I thrashed, my gown tearing as I kicked, but the grip was iron. A voice hissed in my ear, low and venomous, "Stop digging, or you're next." Then the hand was gone, the footsteps retreating as the lights flickered back on. I stumbled forward, gasping, my phone clattering to the floor. Marcus burst into the room, David at his side, their faces pale with fear. David pulled me into his arms, his voice shaking. "Em, what the hell is going on?" Marcus told me about the email, the crash. I clung to him, the weight of the day crashing over me. "They're trying to destroy me," I whispered. "My family, someone else. I don't know who, but I'm not letting them win." David's arms tightened around me, but his eyes were haunted. "We're canceling the ceremony. This isn't safe." "No," I said, pulling back. "We're not. I've spent my life letting them control me, letting their absence define me. Not today." Marcus stepped forward, holding up my phone. "Em, you got another email while you were in here. It's bad." I took the phone, my hands unsteady. The new email was a photo, not of me, but of David, taken minutes ago outside the ballroom, his back to the camera. The caption read, "He's next if you don't stop." My knees buckled, but David caught me, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "We're in this together, Em, whatever it takes." I nodded, tears burning my eyes, but inside, I was steel. The stalker, my family, whoever was pulling the strings, they'd underestimated me. I was Emily Harper, and I didn't just survive, I fought. And this fight was just beginning. The Monterey night closed in, the ocean's roar, a constant reminder of the stakes. My wedding was in tatters, my career on a knife's edge, and the people I'd loved most had betrayed me. But as I stood there, David's hand in mine, Marcus at my side, I felt something shift. The fear was still there, the pain of Lauren's text, my parents' absence, the stalker's threats. But so was my resolve. I'd spent my life chasing a family that never saw me, a love that was never mine to earn. No more. The keycard in my pocket, the note with C's initial, the champagne bottle, they were pieces of a puzzle, and I'd solve it, not because I had to, but because I deserved to. The storm wasn't over, but I wasn't the girl who cowered anymore. I was the woman who'd walk through it, gown torn, heart bruised, and come out stronger. Whoever was out there, watching, waiting, they'd learn that soon enough.